So how do we ensure the delivery of IT values? Well, we have to plan everything properly, right? We have to make sure that we're making the right IT investments so that the values can be delivered. But to understand IT planning, we have to understand organizational planning because the activities or every function really start from the overall organizational structure and decisions. So what I'm showing here is a time-tested procedure for organizational planning. So we start with a goal or goals, and then we formulate a set of strategies to support the goals, and then we create a, a set of tactics to execute the strategy. I just want to spend a few minutes talking about this model because it's although it's conceptually simple, but it's really the details can actually be very important, especially when you're mired in day-to-day business. And you sometimes people tend to forget that they have to go through this process, at least mentally, to make the right decisions. So what are goals? Goals are the things that you want to accomplish, but they have to be meaningful and measurable. A meaningful goal means that something you can actually accomplish and that's worth accomplishing. So for instance, if you say that oh, my goal for next year is 50% higher profitability. So last year I made $2 million worth of profit. So that's a specific amount of profit. So profit is revenues minus cost. So I have $2 million worth of profit. Next year I'm going to make 3 million. I'm going to increase profitability by 50%. So is that meaningful? Yes, because increasing profit is almost always a good objective for an organization, for a company, for a for-profit company. And if is it measurable? Yes, because you specified a number. But if you say that my goal is to increase profit, then that's not meaningful because you don't know what increasing profit means. So is it increasing by a little bit, by a lot, of how long, and so on. So that's not meaningful, and it's not measurable because if you don't specify a number, if you don't specify a target, then at the end of the period, you don't know whether you reached the goal or not. If you don't know whether you reached the goal or not, then it means that there's really no point of specifying a goal. Well, after identifying the goals, then it's time to form a strategy too. So it's a general direction for achieving goals. Then why do we need strategy? Why can't we just embark on a whole bunch of activities and say, okay, so I'm going to increase profit by 50%. So let's go. Let's work on it. Okay, so let me give you some examples why strategy is important. So let's say that I have one product that's being sold to a specific market. Okay, and so last year I made two as I as my fictitious example, I made $2 million by selling this product, and I set up a goal for to increase profitability by 50% next year. So how can I reach there? How can I meet my goal? Well, one possibility is to try to increase the market share. So let's say that my market share for this product in the specific market that I serve is 20%. So if I can increase market share, let's say that I increase market share from 20% to 30%, then I can sell 50% more of my product, and if the cost of sales or if the net margin stays the same for each unit sold, then I will be able to increase 50% of my profitability, right? So that's one possible way of achieving that. Is that the only way? Of course not. Let's say that the second way to do that is that I just want to sell more product. So I have access to this market. I can take advantage of many of the sales process, the sales coverage, and the advertising and all that to access the market that I serve. Um, I feel very comfortable with my sales structure. And if I have more product to sell, if I have more things to sell, if I can increase my revenue that way, then I can, again, if I keep the net margin the same or keep in check, then I can increase my profitability. So I can sell more product to the same market without increasing market share, and I can achieve higher profitability. So the second that's the second way of achieving that. Is there any other way? Well, of course, another possibility is just to try to reduce cost. Let's say that I keep the revenues the same, but if I reduce cost by a certain percentage, then I will be able to achieve 50% 50% profitability. So you can do. So let's assume that I sold $20 million worth of product, and the total cost was 18 million. So I made $2 million. And if I want to increase profitability by 10%, so I increase profit by to $3 million, you can do a quick calculation. And if the revenue stays the same, then I have to reduce my cost to $17 million. So that's about 6% reduction of total cost. And so that's a possibility. That's another possibility of achieving the same goal. So those three. The first one is to increase market share. The second one is to sell more different products, more than one product. The third one is to reduce costs. Those are three very distinctive ways of achieving the same goals. So if I take one or the other, I am deciding on a strategy to achieve the same goal. So why is that? Why are they three different strategies? Because each strategy, each one dictates a very different set of actions or the tactics. So for instance, if I take the first one, increasing market share, so what are the specific actions and initiatives that I have to do, that I have to embark on to execute that strategy? Well, I may have to hire more salespeople. I may have to increase the advertising budget. I may have to create more marketing activities. I may have to study more of the consumer behaviors and all that. So in order to increase market share, maybe I don't have to do any. Maybe I have to change the product packaging. Maybe I have to try to place my product in different in more outlets. So the first one to increase market share is mostly involves sales and marketing activities. So my actions or my initiatives or my tactics to execute the first strategy will mostly be focused on sales and marketing. The second one, to increase the product that I sell, the product portfolio that I sell. Maybe I have to develop a second product. Maybe I can go to another company and to convince them that I can sell their product along with my product, so I can form a partnership. So to take the second strategy, I'm gonna be focusing on the product development or partnership part. Maybe not so much in sales and marketing, right? So that's a completely different set of tactics and actions and initiatives to execute the second strategy. And you can imagine the third strategy will be completely different. Maybe I'll find a way to reduce the inventory. Maybe I'll find a way to reduce the headcounts. Maybe I'll find a way to reduce the accounts receivables. There are many different ways to reduce cost without touching the production part of it, without touching the sales marketing part of it. So if I take the third strategy of cost reduction to achieve the same goal, then my actions, my tactics will be completely different from the other two. So in order to achieve one goal that's meaningful and measurable, you may have two, three, four, 10, 100 different strategies to achieve that. And you have to decide on the strategy so that you will know what to do. And that is the set of tactics that you can take up. And that is really important to understand. So it's really important to understand this whole structure of organizational planning. You have to come up with a set of goals and decide on strategies so that you will be able to formulate a set of operations for each level of organization so that everybody knows what to do. So now that we decided on the goal, how do we pick the right strategy? Well, this is a large field of management studies, and it's all focusing on the strategy formulation of strategies. And there are many different strategy frameworks. I'm not going into details of any of them because you're going to be learning that and going to be reading about these all the time, and in marketing and in operations in many different classes. But I just want to mention a few of them. So, for example, there's what we call a market-based strategy formulation. So by focusing on some marketing factors. So one example is the famous generic strategy framework. There's an industry-based strategy. So some of you have probably heard of the famous Michael Porter's five forces. So we can formulate a strategy driven by or focused on the macro environment. So which force is driving us down, and so on. So that's another way to formulate a strategy. We can also focus on the operations. So actually looking inward and see which part of our activities are value delivery, and then we can really focus on that activities and strengthen that activities and increase the value add of that activity. So that the best tool to use is the famous value chain. Of course, there's more. So there's resource-based strategy focused on the exclusive resource that a firm has. There's what we call aggressiveness-based strategy. There's a famous Miles Snow model to define ourselves as one of the four modes. So prospector, analyzer, defender, or reactor, based on a particular activity or particular initiative within the marketplace. There are also newer strategy framework that keeps popping up on a regular basis. So there's a famous one called Blue Ocean Strategy. So basically, we try to swim to where no one is. So instead of competing in a very crowded area, then we find a segment of the market or the industry that no one is competing but has a lot of potential. And then finally, there's something called a simple rule. So basically, we're not really targeting any particular industry. We're not really targeting any particular market. We're not really targeting or any part of all the operations. All we want is to set up the capabilities so that we're opportunistic. We're ready to exploit anything. And this has been actually a pretty good strategy for especially technology companies, because it's all about their the capabilities. It's not about the particular market segment, because market changes so fast. So you always have to move from one market segment or one particular application to another. You have to do that quickly. So it's all about the technical capabilities. It's all about the marketing capabilities, and it's all about the decision capabilities. So after we decide on a strategy, well, we have to know the goals, and then we decide on a strategy or strategies to reach that goal. Then once that's decided, then it's time to look at the operations of each department, of each function. And IT is one of them. So now it comes down to the part where we have to align the IT organizational strategy with the overall business strategy. So how do we do that? Well, there's three steps. One is to select the right IT investments. So based on the overall strategy, then we have to know which project or which part of IT should we invest in. And we want to make sure that they all work together to deliver the values. And then we have to make sure that individually they're executed well. So the rest of the lectures will be devoted to these three steps.